All right, let's talk corporate law. We're going to build a super solid foundation today with some key ideas that are designed to stick in your brain all the way to the LCPA. Okay, so this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? You're sitting in class now, but how on earth are you supposed to remember all this stuff for a board exam that's like years down the road? It feels impossible, right? Well, we've got the solution, and it's basically a study hack for your brain. Forget trying to memorize the entire corporation code. That's just not going to work. Instead, we're going to focus on 5 core building blocks. You nail these 5 things, and I promise everything else will just start to click. So here's the game plan. First, what even is a corporation? Then, we'll get into its legal superpower, the corporate shield. After that, what happens when you break the rules, piercing the veil? Then a quick look at stock versus non-stock corps. We'll figure out a corporation's nationality, and then wrap it all up with a super fast bullet review to make sure this stuff actually sticks. Let's do this. All right, let's get into it. Building block number 1. What is a corporation really? You know, whenever you're studying law, the best move is to go straight to the source. And for us, that's Section 2 of the Revised Corporation Code. This is where it all begins.
Okay, wow, that sounds super legally, right? An artificial being created by operation of law? Yeah, it's a lot. But don't worry, don't let the fancy words throw you off. We're going to break this down. It's actually just 4 simple ideas all mashed together.
And here they are. This is that chunking method I was talking about. It's a total game changer for studying. So instead of that huge paragraph, just lock in these 4 things. 1, it's an artificial being, like its own legal person. 2, it's created by law. You can't just handshake a corporation into existence. 3, it has the right of succession, meaning it can live on even after its owners are gone. And 4, it can only do what the law says it can do. That's it. Much easier, right? Okay, so let's zoom in on that first attribute, that a corporation is an artificial being. This sounds kind of abstract, but trust me, it's maybe the most important concept in all of corporate law. It has a massive real-world effect. We call this effect the corporate shield. And honestly, you should think of it like a legal superpower. It creates this invisible force field between the company and its owners. So how does this superpower work in real life? Check it out. The corporation owns its own stuff. It's responsible for its own debts, and it can even sue or be sued on its own. Now look at the stockholder. They don't own the company's property. And here's the big one. They are not liable for the company's debts. If the business goes bankrupt, the creditors can't come after your personal savings or your house. That's the shield in action. That's limited liability, and it's why people form corporations in the first place. But you know, with great power comes great responsibility, right? What happens when people try to abuse this superpower? Well, the law has a way to deal with that too. So think about it. What if someone uses the corporation not as a shield for business, but as a hiding place to commit fraud or to cheat someone? The courts aren't just going to let that slide. This is called piercing the corporate veil. And to do it, the court uses a special 3-part test. And here's your memory hack for this one. Just remember control, fraud, harm. First, you have to show that someone had complete control over the corporation, like it was just their puppet. Second, they used that control to do something shady, like commit fraud. And third, that action directly harmed someone. You need all 3 for the court to pierce the veil. Okay, moving on to building block number 4. This one's pretty straightforward. Basically, there are 2 main flavors of corporations, stock and non-stock. The easiest way to see the difference is to just look at them side by side. For a stock corporation, the whole point is to make money, right? For profits. It has capital stock divided into shares, and the people who own it are called stockholders. A non-stock corporation is different. Its purpose isn't profit. It's something like charity, or education, or religion. It doesn't have shares, and any money it makes can't be handed out as dividends. The people involved are called members, not stockholders. Simple as that. And here we are, our final building block. And this one is super important. We know a corporation is an artificial person, but what passport does it hold? Is it Filipino? Is it foreign? And believe it or not, the answer to that question is a massive deal here in the Philippines. So why does it matter so much? Because our own constitution says that certain key industries, we're talking things like exploiting natural resources or running public utilities, are reserved for Filipinos. So if a corporation wants to get into one of those businesses, we have to know if it counts as Filipino. So how do we figure it out? There are 2 tests you absolutely have to know. The main one, the general rule, is the control test. It's easy. You just look at the voting shares. If at least 60% are owned by Filipinos, Boom, it's a Filipino corporation. End of story. But what if the ownership is kind of tricky? What if the 60% is owned by another corporation? That's when you use the exception, the grandfather rule. This is where you have to dig deeper and trace the ownership all the way back to the actual individual people, the grandfathers, to see who's really in control.
Okay, deep breath. We've covered all 5 building blocks. Now for the most important part, the final study hack to burn this into your brain so you don't forget it next week or next year. Let's go. Rapid fire. What did we learn? 1. A corp is a separate legal person with 4 key attributes. 2. That separateness creates the corporate shield that protects the owners. 3. You can pierce that shield or that veil with the 3-part test: control, fraud, harm. 4. Stock corps are about shares and profits. Non-stock corps are about purpose, no dividends. And 5. For nationality, you use the control test first. Only if there's doubt do you bring in the grandfather rule. Got it? That's your core foundation.
Look, at the end of the day, these aren't just rules you have to memorize for a test. Seriously, think of them as your toolkit. When you understand these 5 core ideas, you can analyze pretty much any corporate law problem that gets thrown at you. Master these tools, and you're not just studying for the LCPA, you're mastering the game. Your journey starts right now.